You were asleep when you.
I was asleep.
probably
and
Oh, you
then-
actually did it?
Yeah,
Oh.
I did a snatch in my sleep, and my hands went up, and I hit her in the face, and I wake up because I hit somebody in the face. And
She woke up and she got hit in
she
the
wakes
face.
up crying.
All right.
And I'm just like, fuck. She's
That's,
like,
it's good you got that story on video now, so the judge will. No, that's why I hit her in the face.
Yeah.
I was snatching in my sleep.
yeah.
Good strategy. Get
I
that on
once
video.
pulled a
Yeah.
gun in my sleep as well, and so we've changed some rules about how I sleep.
Yeah. Like,
No more guns.
No guns around you, man.
No Rambo knives in the bed.
I
Nothing
know
anymore.
this, the moment when I broke my first world record, I had lived that moment so many times, how I would feel, how I'd react, the crowd, what I would do after.
Welcome to Barbell Shrugged. I'm Mike Bledsoe here with Doug Larson, Dr. Andy Galpin. We're here in Anaheim, California for the Weightlifting World Championships. And we ran into one of our favorite weightlifting coaches, and that's Mr. Travis Mash.
What's
Thanks
up?
for joining us today.
Dude, I'm so excited, mainly just to hang out with you, but
Well, of
we'll
course.
podcast too.
Of course.
If I got a podcast to hang out with you, that's what we'll do.
By the way, this is the first show that we're Instagram living.
Yeah.
So if you're following us on Instagram, then you have the benefit of getting some of this content ahead of time.
Ah.
How cool is this?
Oh, yeah.
So,
make sure you're
follow
following
us.
Yeah, make sure you're following us. You never know what we might be posting. It'll be a surprise.
When Mike Bledsoe says that,
Yeah.
that's
That's
you
when
don't
you
even know
know.
what that's worth.
No
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah. One thing I want to mention before we go any further is we have a weightlifting guide that's absolutely free. It's 50 pages of gold. Where do we find that, Doug?
That's at flightweightlifting.com.
Flightweightlifting.com.
It's free now?
Yeah. It's always been free.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah,
Well, there you go.
The flight guide has always been free.
Oh.
The flight weightlifting, the program, of course, is not free, but the flight guide, just the ebook, is totally free. It always has been.
Oh, cool.
And it's
Yeah.
a lot of information. It's
It's
good.
got
no,
a
I've
ton
seen
of great
that, yeah.
information.
Actually, I think it's too much information.
I thought it was special because I got it for free, and I was like, oh, thanks, guys.
I
But
thought you got hooked up.
no, cool. Well, geez, I don't feel special
You're not
anymore.
as cool as you thought. Yeah.
My wife tells me that every day.
I think you're cool, though.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Travis, we've had you on the show several times before.
Yeah.
Several?
Several.
3, 4, maybe. Might
3
be-
or 4. I think this is 4.
You might be one of the most interviewed guests on the show so
As
far.
I should
You're,
be.
you're up there with Rich Froning, and
I'm cooler than Rich. No, I'm just kidding.
and you run Master Elite Performance out of
Yes.
North Carolina.
Right.
You coach tons of youth and
Youth,
a lot of
junior,
weightlifters,
yeah.
a lot of people playing different sports. You're
Right.
just making them bigger, faster, stronger, all that mess.
Yeah, I mean,
You got a couple athletes here, right, at the
we
World
have
Championships?
3. We have the most of any other team in America. I have the most of any other coach in America.
Who do you have here?
I have Nathan Damron, Jordan Cantrell, Brian Reisenhower. So
Can you give us a basic idea of what their numbers, each of those guys, so they can have a
Yeah.
little context?
I
How
can-
big are they? What are they lifting right now?
Brian Reisenhower is this is I think people will enjoy this the most. He's 56 kilos, so that means he's 123 pounds,
Yep.
and he's snatched 251 pounds, which is 114 kilos, and he's clean and jerk 139 kilos, which is 306 pounds. So that's pretty cool. Jordan,
Snatching double, well over double body weight.
yes,
Yeah.
he's an amazing lifter.
Insane.
He just got 9th in the world yesterday, so we're pretty happy. It's his first international competition, so top
Yeah.
10 is at the World Championships is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Jordan is probably the most improved weightlifter in America. I mean, not probably 100%. He's increased. We've been working together 26 weeks, of which his total has gone up 28 kilos, which is even for me. That's
You said that
unreal.
earlier, and I had to stop and do like
Me too.
with working 26 weeks and up 28 kilos.
28 kilo, more than a kilo a
Wow.
week, which is like 2 pounds, more than 2 pounds every week. And
At this
kid-
level, that's
Yeah.
unheard of.
yeah, because he was already good, but like he went from being like that like a podium 85 kilo lifter to he's at the Worlds, and so it's been pretty crazy. Now he's like looking to break all the American records and in that 85 kilo class, which
Yeah.
is Kendrick
Yeah.
Ferris.
Right.
So like and Oscar Chaplin, so he's looking to do some big things. And then obviously most people know Nathan Damron, the freak squatter, squats. What did he do? 320 kilo squat, which is 704 pounds, back squat, high bar,
Like a high bar Olympic
weightlifting.
back squat?
Yeah,
Yeah.
super.
And he's 185 pounds.
No, he's the 94 kilos, so he's 207.
Okay. Still.
What's he
Still,
squatting?
like triple body weight.
Over 3.
320 kilos at 704.
Yeah,
705.
3.5 X body weight.
Free. So those are my 3
Just
years.
like putting that on my shoulders. I'm like, oh, yeah, that was good.
I
Good
couldn't even
workout.
roll that if he was on a wheel.
those two, Jordan and Nathan are both 21 years old, so pretty impressive. You know, they got a long future, so we're excited.
Yeah. So how do you treat those guys? How do you program for those guys? Like what's the conversation you're having with them? And how is it different for those guys at the highest level versus like the rest of the people that you train?
Well, all three of those dudes have a very different program. So like, you know, I think when an athlete's starting, you can be very basic. Everyone can be on the same program, but as they advance, it's important that a coach out there becomes very specific.
Yeah.
So I mean,
so when you was Jordan, you said you had made those big leaps, right?
Yeah.
So when he showed up, how did you do an assessment or a test, or how do you figure out where he's at? What are the numbers you're starting to? What are you looking for when you're trying to individualize this program?
Well, first off, I'm gonna ask him his opinion. I think once a lifter has been training 4 or 5 years, it's very important that they have feedback. So I'm listening to him at what works, what doesn't work for him in the past, and then we do a muscular imbalance test, and so I get to know where are they weak, compare their squat compared to their snatch, clean and jerk, and all that. So we start even more than that, the squat, back squat to front squat,
ratios and all that.
Deadlift,
right?
yeah, ratios. So I can
Ratios and shit.
Yeah, I can pinpoint
Science
where they're weak, and so.
What should someone's ratio of back squat to front squat versus deadlift be? Do you have a rough idea that you can spout?
I think so. So you take a back squat. Normally it should be about 70% of their clean and jerk and about 60% of their snatch. Oh wait, the snatch should be
60% of their back squat.
Yes, and 70% of their back squat,
Right.
clean and jerk. And so deadlift and back squat should be as close as possible. Everyone is like. No one in the world is like perfectly balanced. I've heard though that Rich Froning, of all the people, is as close to muscularly balanced as possible, which makes sense. But your goal is just to try to get them to as close to perfect as possible. And the cool thing is when you have numbers, it's quantifiable, is that you can look and see if there's improvement, and that's all you're looking for, improvement over time.
Were any of you guys your max back squat and your max deadlift close to even?
Oh no way.
No.
Yeah, your
No.
deadlift way higher. Right?
For me, having a shorter torso, like my deadlift was always so much easier. So my back squat was always like 80% of my deadlift.
Yeah, so I was probably the opposite.
Mine was close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Close?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect then. You're one way, I'm the other way, and you're right in the middle.
I was dead.
job.
805. I was perfect.
It's a good balance.
You were
there.
what?
My back squat and deadlift were even 805.
Because you had the
Like Goldilocks
deadlift
and
world
3
record, right?
weightlifters.
I had the total world record and the squat world record, but I did not have the.
And your squat was?
I've done 950, equipped. I've done 805 raw. So.
Right.
Yeah, for people that don't know who you are, like what is your background? Like, how'd you get into all this? I know you've been on the show many times, but we definitely have some new listeners since last time you were on the show. Can you give us a brief bio?
Screw
I
'em.
was a weightlifter.
Screw 'em. Just go watch the old show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, link it. But I was a weightlifter first, and then my father got sick and had to move back to North Carolina. I was in Colorado Springs at the Olympic Training Center. I found a coach out there. Left college. When I was done with college, I moved out there because I wanted to pursue weightlifting. After football, and so it went really well. I got good really quickly, and then my father got sick, so I chose to move home. And back then, like all you guys listening, we didn't have a gym on every corner, a CrossFit on every corner where I could snatch and clean and jerk. There wasn't, there was like maybe 6 places in the United States we could do it.
Yeah.
So when I went home, I just started powerlifting because you can do that anywhere, and so started doing that. And then I probably was a blessing. I just didn't know it, but I was a better powerlifter. And then from there, I won the world championships 3 times and broke the all-time pound-for-pound total record twice. And so.
And what did you lift at what weight?
I did 2410 first in total of the
at
squat
what body
bench
weight?
stuff. I was 100 kilos, 220
220.
pounds. And so then I did 2414. And then that was it. So. Yeah, pretty good.
And then back to
yeah, 24. I mean, so you're averaging 800 pounds over the 3 lifts, so squat, bench, deadlift.
Yeah, pretty much. So.
Yeah, almost 4x body weight.
I think at the time I did
like a perfect circle.
Yeah,
of
I
strength.
did a 970 squat, a 700 bench, and then an almost 800 deadlift there. But I've done 804 in competition deadlifts.
Did it break your heart to be so close to 1,000 and not be able to get 1,000?
Yeah. I mean,
rub it in, Andy.
I squatted 1,000 multiple times in training.
Oh, sure you did.
And got so yeah, exactly.
Video or
Nobody was there. I was all alone that day.
How'd you know? No.
Yeah, how'd you know that?
So, but yeah.
Oh, let me guess. This is before video, huh?
I tried
Sure.
so many times in competition and
Just wasn't there.
Yeah, 30 pounds, which is, 30 pounds when you're squatting 970 is not that much.
Yeah.
No, percentage-wise.
It is, but it isn't.
I mean, there was one time I was so close. I was in Detroit, and it was. I mean, I was up, and I'm thinking I'm already celebrating. I'm already thinking about how much shit I'm going to talk, and then it just stopped. I'm like, what has happened? But there you have it. So.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then you got back into weightlifting, and how long have you been coaching weightlifting now?
Since 2013, I think. I met Mike at, I think it was 2013 in Dallas, right? It was like
American Open.
American Open. That was the year that we all got iced in.
Yeah, I got iced in.
So there's like a big ice storm. A lot of people couldn't make it in, and a lot of us, like I got there days before the rest of our crew, so we were supposed to shoot a lot of video, and instead I just ended up hanging out with Travis the whole time.
It was great, though. It was
I
fun.
didn't even make it in.
No,
he was the only one there, I'm pretty sure.
I was the only one there.
So, but
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be. We had a great time.
Yeah, and then when I met him, I was mainly strength and conditioning and just playing with weightlifting, and then from there, I have no idea what happened, but
that's a pretty quick. So you said 2013, and by 2017, you already got 3 people at World Championships.
Yes.
How the hell did you get in? How did you get these people? How?
I think that if you're a good coach, whether it's strength and conditioning, powerlifting, if you can motivate people to be better than they even think they can, I think it doesn't matter the sport. So I've always had the ability to make people better.
Yeah.
Plus I know the science, which a lot of weightlifting coaches don't. Yeah. And so I had those 2 advantages, and I was a world champion. So, so like when you're working with athletes and you can and they're wanting to be a world champion, and you can empathize with them and be like, this is what it takes. I know you can do it. They know I'm not lying because I know what it takes. And so all that just forms a really unique culture of winning and succeeding. And they know I love them. You guys have had a D on a bunch, and she knows. I love my athletes. I think that's important. I think that lacks a lot, and unfortunately, for coaches, they don't. They love what the athlete can do for them, but they don't really love them, man. Yeah. Like, I don't need an athlete to do anything for me. I've done my own. I just want to help my athletes get to that next level, and they know that, and it just is a unique culture like that. So, yeah.
Programming-wise, you were saying earlier that we kind of lost there. We kind of got into that, but we didn't finish it, though. So you're looking at the assessment of their muscular balances, right? And then how does that conversation evolve from there to where you're actually starting to put numbers onto a page?
Well, here's a great example. Let's say that somebody can squat 700 pounds, and they're clean jerking 370.
Yeah, let's just say for example.
Yeah, that there's a problem there. There's a big imbalance. So I really don't need to worry about absolute strength. Yeah. I need to worry about obviously there's a technique thing. They need more practice. So I know then that more of the volume needs to be focused on the lifts themselves. Yeah. However, on the other hand, you take a guy like Tom Suma, who's on my team. Like if he front squats 190 kilos, he's probably going to clean and jerk 190.
Yeah, I know
that dude. Yeah. So So is there really a reason for me to do a ton of snatch and clean and jerk, or should I just focus on squatting?
Yeah.
Focus on squatting.
Right.
So just if too many coaches have a set plan, and they're like, you're going to do this plan if it kills you. I'm like, I'm going to make instead of making the athlete fit my plan, I'm going to make my plan fit the athlete, and I want to go on their strengths and weaknesses so I can guarantee get them to the next level. Yeah. Too many athletes come, and because they don't fit this certain mold, they get thrown out to the wayside. They go somewhere else, and all of a sudden they're killing it, because that program fit them. So just tailor your program to the athlete.
Have there been times where you couldn't figure out what the weak link was, like what the main weakness was that you needed to fix, and then you eventually figured it out?
Sometimes, because there's variables that it's hard to quantify. Like, there's absolute strength, and then there's technique, but then there's mentality. Like, how do you quantify that? Like you take an athlete, what's going on in their brain. I tell you, this is a good one. A big problem with today's athletes is they have a real tough time visualizing things. So if I tell them, for example, to sweep back, stay over the bar, they're going to be trying to think about that when they're lifting. Whereas I would have visualized what my coach is saying, and then I just lift. And so it's easier if you can visualize and you go lift, because you can. So it slows you down if you're thinking, obviously.
Yeah.
And you can't have that in weightlifting.
Yeah.
So today's population, your book, Unplugged, is beautiful. They have so many computers and phones. they have no imagination because it does it for them. So they can't see. So many of my athletes, when I talk about visualization, I have to give them a class on it. We have to work on that because they cannot see. When I was an athlete, I could see it, feel it, hear it, smell it. I could lay in my bed and like visualize to the point where I was sweating because I was competing. You know, nowadays they can't do that.
Well, so I wonder too if it has something to do with mirror neurons. And you know, like for instance, I actually find it to be really easy to watch somebody do an activity and then I can just copy it.
Yeah.
And I think I have, like for me, I just have maybe more mirror neurons, or I can access that more easily than the average person, and I'm sure visualization comes in handy with that as well.
Totally.
So I wonder, you know, and I don't know if Andy, if you know anything about this. Is technology impacting mirror neurons or visual
I don't know
imagination?
about mirror neurons specifically, but the kinesthetic awareness is falling off.
Yes.
I am the exact same way, and you're pretty much like that too. A lot of people are where I can very much see a movement and replicate that.
Me too.
I'm very much like that. I can watch the UFC and see someone do something that's brand new to me and just go to practice and just do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It just makes sense.
But yeah, we are having a major problem with that. Of course, this is a part of the book too. And we put in there is the ability to mirror those things is going down because we're so focused on the wrong. This is the motor control, motor learning people talk about internal versus external cueing. And that's effectively what you're saying.
I think I read you posted something about that.
The connection between external cueing is being compromised. People are having a really hard time with that.
Yeah.
Chris Moore used to. I know. Actually, I've heard you tell a story. You're doing the same thing in the shower. We're about to tell Doug Larson's shower story.
Shower stories, ready?
But Chris Moore
we used to be roommates. I know all about what's happening in the shower.
You used to joke about this all the time.
Me and Chris used to shower together.
Natasha still gives me shit about this all the time because I'll be in the shower, right? You know, or like whatever, right? And you're like, it's not even necessarily visualization. I'll be in bed, you know, just like, you know, whatever happened to do it. Chris was always hitting that, and I know you've done. You know,
so
used
to be in the grocery store doing that.
Yeah,
and then shadow boxing, I do that everywhere.
All the time.
Like I can't walk past him here.
Just be like, he'll be sitting there talking to you, shadow boxing.
And if you think about the tens of thousands of repetitions in your life you've taken like that, when you get into the squat rack, you've done this literally in your head or in the grocery store so many times.
A million times.
Those are so many extra reps that actually count.
Oh yeah. Well, when I first started weightlifting, I fell in love with the sport, and I remember going to bed at night having a hard time falling asleep because I was thinking about snatching.
Yeah.
You know, and during the same time I was dating Ashley, and who's now my wife, and I remember hitting her in the face, like backhanding her hard.
You're visualizing this?
In my sleep.
You're practicing?
Looking forward to the day when I can execute.
No, once I get married, I can hit her. No, but like
it's legal now. Yeah.
I remember waking up and knowing that I had just smashed her face.
Oh, because you were asleep when you.
I was asleep.
So you actually did it?
Yeah, I did a snatch in my sleep, and my hands went up. And I hit her in the face, and I wake up because I hit somebody in the face.
She woke up and she got hit in the face.
She wakes up crying.
All right.
And I'm just like, fuck.
It's good you got that story on video now, so the judge will know that's why I hit her in the face.
Yeah.
I was snatching in my sleep.
Yeah.
Good strategy.
I once pulled a gun in my sleep as well, and so we've changed some rules about how I sleep.
Yeah. Like,
no more guns.
No guns around you, man.
No Rambo knives in the bed. Nothing
I know
anymore.
the moment when I broke my first world record, I had lived that moment so many times, how I would feel, how I'd react, the crowd, what I would do afterwards, the judges. It was almost like it was not as cool because I'd done it too many times. You know?
Yeah.
Like I won, I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, yeah. All right, cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but like nowadays, it's really tough.
What was the next day like after you broke a world record? Like you worked so hard for so long to accomplish this big thing, and then the next day, are you still motivated? Is there a void? Is it weird? Like, is there a sense of like, what do I do now? Like, what's it like?
Weren't we talking about this?
Yeah. You can go as far or not as far into that because it got pretty kind of deep yesterday. But
it was bad. Like come Monday especially. Like I celebrated. Like I just won a lot of money and I was the world champion. So maybe the next day wasn't so bad because I'm partying all weekend.
Yeah.
Come Monday though, so this was a Saturday. Sunday was still all right. Come Monday, like I was physically like hurting my whole body, had trouble getting out of bed. I like literally zero energy. And so I went to the doctor.
Well, you lifted like 2,400 pounds, and then you
ton,
partied
literally
for 2 days. What the fuck do you expect?
Well, I go.
Couldn't figure out why was that energy.
I go to the.
All that whiskey didn't help me recover.
Yeah, I know. It should. Beer should. So I go to the doctor, and the dude we take this test, and like he says that I'm depressed. And I'm like, and so there was definitely a moment of depression because here's the thing: if you
didn't know you were depressed until the doc told you you're depressed.
Seriously.
Now you're depressed.
Like I'd never been sad in my life. Like it would, I mean, someone dies, you're sad, but like I never had been experienced depression. Like it just, things had gone very well up until then. And so that moment though, for a while, it was pretty bad because if this one thing is like the center of your universe, if like you think breaking this world record is like going to be the answer for all your problems, which is what I thought. All I cared about was breaking this record. There was a moment. There was a girl I was dating, and her dad died, and I still compete. I didn't stay with her and support her. I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta compete. And I had, at that time, couldn't even understand why she was mad at me. I'm like, what? I'm supposed to stay. And so, like,
selfish.
Yeah.
No, you're so focused on.
I was very focused on this one moment, and so I broke it. And the sky didn't open up. Like the clouds didn't part. I'm like, I'm like, wait, it was not near as like cool as I thought.
Well, I hear about this a lot with people in business as well. It's like, oh, when I make this amount of money, I'll be happy. And they make that amount of money, and then it's never enough.
It's never enough.
And things like squatting, 1,000 pounds and making $1 million actually doesn't solve any of your problems.
Never.
Yeah.
So there's things in your life you're gonna have to deal with. That's the key. And you can hide behind sports. You can hide behind your business. You can hide behind a lot of things. And so, it was good for me because here's what happened, though. I broke the record, got depressed. So instead of, like, trying to deal with things, what I did was just, okay, I'm going to break it again. So I broke it again, and then things got real bad, And so I got super depressed, and, like, it was definitely a moment in my life where I had to make some changes. And so, it was good though.
What got you out of that though? Because that second one was a long funk, right?
It was a long, matter of fact, like it was I lost all my money, like lost a home. I've never told anyone on this story, but I'll go ahead and tell. I don't care anymore. I have nothing, but like I lost my home that I bought, lost my car. I was broke, and so that was a time I met who's now my wife, which is crazy because I was training super hard. So she met me. I was losing my mind. She had no idea I was losing my mind. I was broke, but I was training super hard. I was like, I don't know what else to do. This is what I do. So I was training hard. I was jacked, bait and switch. But
he was telling yesterday, he's like, when I met my wife, I had washboard abs. Like 2 years later, here, it was the old bait and switch.
But like, to me, it was like coming to grips with like, a faith. And it's, for me, it was, getting to know God and like, being grounded on things. I mean, whether you believe in God or not, it's not. That's not where this show's not about that. But what it does do, there's a lot of good stuff I learned. Like caring about others more than myself. I tell you this. Here's what I hear all the time. You need to love yourself. If you can't love yourself, you can't love others. I've never had a problem with loving myself. I'm very good at that. I think most people are good at loving themselves. But like when you start doing stuff for other people, it's amazing what it does for you. I talk about like there's a friend who asked a question on Facebook. He's like talking about networking. Like what do you do to network? I'm like, for me networking is like when I met you, I didn't even know Barbell Shrugged at the time. I just knew I loved you. Like I knew this dude is like something about him. And so I ended up networking with people I care about. Like some people that I like hanging. I met you, and within seconds, you and I are like the best of friends. Met you, we're the best of friends. And so, like, when you learn to like really care about people, you don't have to worry about networking. You don't have to worry about like, I got to go out and make connections. You just, when someone sees that you really sincerely care about them and that you want to do for them, more than you really care about what they do for you, man, your whole life changes. I know with my wife and my kids, like. My wife knows good and well. I love my wife so much, and like, like if I can't do for her, then none of this other stuff matters. If I have to work so much, I neglect my wife, then this is something that's gone awry. So I need to back off this because that's what's important. If you do that, your whole life will be affected. You could be broke and feel rich if you develop, learning how to care about people, sincerely.
Yeah. Let's take a break, and when we come back, I want to talk about your velocity-based training and why Americans are making a comeback in weightlifting.
Why Russia sucks.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching the show. If you love weightlifting and you want to improve your snatch, clean, and jerk, you can go to flightweightlifting.com. We have a free 54-page ebook that has sample programming, videos on how to improve your technique, as well as tons of other tips to help you improve your weightlifting. If you want that book, go to flightweightlifting.com.
We're back with Travis Mash.
Yep.
And on our break, we got talking about a little bit. All right, we are going to talk about the velocity training. And I do want to talk about why Russians suck. But, Andy, I want to hear about the study that you're doing here. So we're at the World Championship. So like the best weightlifters on the fucking planet are lifting. So you have taken advantage of this situation.
That's kind of what I do. My life is take advantage.
Good.
Particularly when sleeping and just other. No. No, we our lab is just 5 or 6 miles up the road here. And so we were able to, because of Travis and a bunch of other really awesome Mike Catone and with USA Weightlifting and everyone else to support, to put together a project where we're collecting a bunch of biopsies from a ton of the Team USA members, and I can't say who, or I can't give you any details for violation of confidentiality, but then also a bunch of the really high placers at American Open. And it's going to be the first study really ever to look at muscle physiology of not only weightlifters, but really high power, high velocity, high force production athletes, and specifically the females. So we know almost nothing. It's something crazy, like 72 ever female athletes have been biopsied.
What?
Fiber type.
Oh, wow.
It's really tremendously small. It's like 3 soccer players, 4 hockey players. I mean, it's really
that doesn't even make sense.
horrendously bad numbers.
And a biopsy for people that don't know what a biopsy is, you're going into their leg usually in this case and pulling out a chunk of muscle and looking at it and analyzing it to see like what their fiber types are percentage wise. Like, no. You can tell us more about that. But you're taking a piece of muscle out of someone's body.
Exactly.
And looking at it.
We dive in there, grab some tissue, bring it out, and then we'll get a couple of hundred, if not a couple thousand fibers out in that segment, and we'll pull muscle fibers. We'll pull them out one by one, and then put them under our $800,000 microscope and do a bunch of analyses of fiber size, fiber type, fast twitch, slow twitch, things like that.
So cool.
It's a good example of we just presume weightlifters have a lot of fast twitch fibers, but we really haven't done it. And there's been a couple of studies that have been done on weightlifters, but they were done with literally, I think the sample size was 5 or 6 people.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it was in the early 90s. It was Fry.
Were those our samples?
Actually, our study is one of the 9, one of those 4. And then we had 9 subjects, and we weren't even good weightlifters. We're like,
so they don't.
Just because something's intuitive, like what you just said about weightlifters, they probably have more fast twitch fibers or whatever. Like that sounds like it should be correct on its face. But then when we got tested for our myosin heavy chain and type 2X fibers, like. Yeah. We had almost none of like the fastest fibers, and they had almost all been converted to like the mediocre middle of the ground, middle of the road fibers.
That's one of the things we found. That actual method that we use to test that is long been since to be erroneous. So it's not actually the right way to measure the whole thing.
Gosh.
Okay.
Which makes the whole thing off. It's not the right way to measure distribution. It measures other things. We just didn't know that at the time. So it's measuring the wrong thing. And the 2X fibers, the super fast fibers, actually really don't exist. They do theoretically, but we find less than 1 out of every 1,000 fibers are 2X. So had we gone back and biopsied us now, you would find none.
Yeah, that's what our results showed, that all the people that had trained had none, but a few people that were sedentary did have some.
So they had actually
like Fry used to call them couch potato fibers.
In one of your podcasts, you talked.
Those are actually 2A2X hybrid fibers, not true 2X fibers. So we now know that those that showed up as 2X were really 2A2X fibers. They're miscalculated.
2A2X.
Yeah.
Of course.
But here's the fun part.
My whole life just changed hearing that. Because I have no idea what the fuck.
But this is why this is so exciting. The only person that has ever been published or the information's got out, the only person that's ever of any kind of speed, strength, or power athlete, anaerobic athlete that's been biopsied and accurately fiber type was a guy named Colin Jackson. This is a project I worked on as a doctoral student, and he was a world record holder in the 60-meter hurdle and 110-meter hurdle, and he was 24% 2X.
Jeez. I remember you saying that on
and
my
so
podcast.
he's the only person that's ever been found to have those fiber types, but again, he's the only person that is a strength and speed and power athlete that's ever been biopsied. So this is why we're so excited about this project, is because
groundbreaking.
It's like saying your mom's your favorite mom.
Right. If that's the only mom you ever had.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So I'm interested to really see the results. If any of these people have that, if it is truly something unique to speed athletes rather than power or strength athletes.
I think you're going to find a range, because
we're going to see.
Like we talked about earlier, you're going to find athletes that look very slow and then they're very fast underneath.
Yeah.
Some athletes are going to be very explosive upwards, not so much downwards. And so
we're interested to see, like, are you getting these numbers through strength or through speed?
Yeah.
Or through a combination?
I think it'll depend on the burst. I mean, I'm just guessing.
Yeah. And then the really interesting thing again will be what the females look like, because traditionally females are thought to have more slow twitch fibers than men, but we have again almost no data on that, and we don't have any data on female athletes.
Once again, I think
so.
My friend Coach Spencer Arnold, Power
and
and Grace.
Yeah.
He's got 2 athletes, Jordan Dela Cruz and Jesse Bradley, and he's been working a lot with velocity with those two. But like, you got 2 athletes. You got Jordan, whose vertical leap is like, still unbelievable athlete. Jesse, amazing vertical leap. And like, Jordan is still right now ranking higher. Jordan is ranking higher than Jesse. So like, that right there told me, well, obviously you don't have to have that amazing power output to be a great lifter. Yeah. You better be a good athlete and have timing and speed underneath. So like, I think it'll be interesting.
That's one thing to keep in mind as we go through stuff like that is, fiber type is important, but there's a lot of factors that go into human performance.
Yeah.
way more than just one physiological variable.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great Chinese lifters whose rate of force development is not that good.
Yeah.
It looks like a deadlift until they
good in spite of. Yeah.
Yeah. So
could be looking at sports cars and saying how many cylinders is better.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's like, well, it depends on the track and it depends on the weight of the car and like there's just
and what you do with the cylinders. Yeah.
And if you punch the gas at the wrong time, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, so let's hear about this. So what's up with the Russians? And the Americans? What's going on?
Don McCauley and I, and Vin, we have 3 coaches that are, considered like, senior international coaches for Mass Elite. And we talk a lot about like being tired of hearing about, Russian, even Chinese, even though I respect a lot of what, China's, they're trying to hustle to do the best they can with their athletes. But, it's like comparing apples to oranges, like give me a bunch of drugged up athletes and I'm going to look like the best coach in the world, but I'm not. I gave them drugs. I'm a great druggie. I'm a great drug dealer, And you just, we hear, unfortunately, here's why I love Andy, is the only real research that's ever been done for weightlifting, it was pretty much Russian, like 1970s, it's good that finally in America, I believe, without a doubt, our exercise scientists are better, or is good at least, but I think they're better than Russian. Here's why I say that. If you look at America as a whole, look at the Olympics. Like, only in weightlifting do we really get beat. As a whole, we destroy at the Olympics. We dominate. We dominate Russia. We dominate China. China's way bigger than us, so don't tell me that they're dominating us. They're taking drugs in weightlifting. Yeah. So that's all. That is all.
And you were making some predictions earlier and had some evidence to support that in terms of what can you tell us some of those?
Well, at this World Championships, like drug testing is an all-time high. Here's why: like we got weightlifting is being scrutinized big time right now. We've had
because of all the collapse. Yeah,
way too many.
China's not here right now.
China's not here. Russia's not here. There's multiple teams that are not because they chose not to. They got booted. Because of drug tests.
Right.
And so it's not like I'm just like, that validates what I'm saying. I'm not just some bitter coach.
Yeah.
No, they're not here because they take drugs,
Right.
And so
at a team level.
It seems really weird that in weightlifting we would be so far from leading the world, but then in powerlifting we do fantastic.
It's because all things are even.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, the amount of drug testing is the same, meaning like even like USAPL, they're like considered the drug tested federation. I mean, they only get tested in competition, and they say that we do some out of meat testing. They're like, do 2. Shoot, man, Nathan Damron got tested twice in 4 days out of meet testing, my athlete.
Yeah.
So, like, don't talk about out of meet testing unless you do a ton of it. So they don't. And so, like, everything's even, so then the competition becomes even. You know, I know when I was powerlifting, you know, and it was professional, a lot of the guys got tested positive, a lot of the weightlifters. So they came to powerlifting because at the time it was professional. And we dominated them. It wasn't even close. They were getting my autograph because they were nowhere near me. I'm like, you know, they were within 300 pounds of my total. So, like, don't tell me about, you know, you're such a dominant athlete. You're not. Russia's not.
So maybe we shouldn't be borrowing all of our programming ideas from them?
Exactly my point. Like, I just get so sick of American coaches. They're like, oh, Russia, we love you, Russia. You know, like, what? They're not even here, man. They're testing positive so much. What can we do in America within, you know, connection with guys like Andy? Like, dudes like that, I have no doubt, are smarter than anyone in Russia. So, like, I want to know what he says so I can apply it to my athletes. Because I'm really good at what I do. I know he's good at what he does. So the information I get will be directly applicable to my athletes. I have no doubt that we'll start winning. Like, now we're already at this one. We've only had 2 people go. We've got a 7th and 9th. Way better than ever before. Yeah. Because these dudes coming here and knowing there's a good chance they're going to get tested.
We watched the guy's 69 yesterday, and what was the guy doing?
We watched the 56 kilo men, the little dudes.
And the guy that won he snatched, what he snatched?
129.
And he was 2 weeks ago, he was snatching 140.
He was posting videos of 140. So he comes here and is 129.
Those 11 kilos lower than his PR?
Yeah, that's big. Yeah. That's a big gap.
Yeah.
They're afraid. They know that they can't be taking, coming in here, they're going to get popped.
Yeah, so we're going to have, fair to say, we're going to have the most medals at World Championship this year than we've had in.
It's our goal. Like,
or at least
I'd
top
rather,
8, top 8 finishes.
We'll definitely have that. But, like, you know, there's a few people that have a really good chance of medaling. Of course, they got to do it. But if, you know.
Who are our best hopes?
I would say Harrison Morris, C.J. Cummings. I think.
And they're both 17.
They're 17.
And they both got a chance to win?
Yeah.
Wow. World titles at 17.
I don't know
for
about
America,
win, but they got a chance to medal.
The same weight class?
No, one is a 69, one's a 77. Harrison is a 77.
Okay.
They've got, both of them have very real chances. Both of them already have youth world records.
Yeah. Not American records, youth.
World, yeah. Both of those dudes hold the senior American records. So, like,
at 17.
They're unbelievable.
Killing it.
Oh, CJ had it at 16, right? Or 15? He had that record?
He got he got it at 15, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And then Harrison got his. And they 16. Both got another one at 16, and now 17. Yeah. They're about to.
So CJ's going to do, we were in the training hall a minute ago, and his one of his people that helps him is saying he thinks he's going to do 190 clean and jerk at 17 years old and 69 kilos.
However, Harrison is going to snatch 160 and clean and jerk 200, just one weight class up.
At 77. And those are Kendrick Farrick's numbers, two weight classes
the
below.
77 will be Oscar Chaplin's.
Yep.
But he already and get this, so some of the best Americans of all time are already getting
Oscar's the man. Like, he was my first person. I was like, that guy's awesome.
He was.
In weightlifting.
So not now. And then the 17-year-old kid is, like, wrecking, you know, he's taking his records and wiping the floor with them. Yeah, wiping the floor with them. So
you help coach Harrison?
I am really close with his coach. His coach, you know, Kevin Simons, is brilliant. So we
went to the games twice, CrossFit Games twice, right?
CrossFit Games twice. Mm-hmm. So that dude, you know, I have a 14-year-old who's I would say he's probably the strongest 14-year-old in the world right now. I mean, he squats 500 pounds and he's 14. And so
how big is he?
What sports is he playing?
He's a weightlifter. Only weightlifter.
That's it.
His parents. This is how.
I had this idea of like a 14-year-old that squats 500 on the football field, and just like
fullback.
Just like he's like running at me,
people.
and I'd be like, yeah.
So would I. Yeah.
Stand off.
I
to the
play
side.
college football, and I agree with you. I would
fuck that.
So I've told him that if I die, I want Kevin Simons to be his coach. He's that brilliant. Like he wants to quantify things. You know, a lot of American coaches they program a certain way because their coaches told them that, or they went to a certain school and this professor told them this is the best way. They never thought to maybe improve or get their own ideas or continue learning. And Kevin is like a diehard, I want to learn every day guy, and that's who I want for my guys.
Yeah.
Speaking of continuing education and learning more and more every day, like. You have a ton of experience, been doing this for a long time. Right. Like you were world-class, world record holder at one point. Like, what do you do day to day to learn more and to get better yourself?
You know, okay, so like
he listens to Barbell Shrugged.
I do listen to Barbell Shrugged. So lately, I get that a lot about like, so what are you reading? Lately, I've been I'll pick the topic of ebook that I want to learn about.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wrote this velocity-based ebook because I wanted to like get deeper into the research. So it forces me to get deeper into like what I want to learn about.
Yeah. Oh, you write a book about something you want to learn about.
I want to learn about.
Ah.
So like, if I want to know all about hypertrophy, I write a book, Mass Check, about hypertrophy. If I want to learn about,
do you give yourself a deadline though? Because
yeah.
I find myself I want to write an ebook or something like that about a subject, and then I find myself so far down this rabbit hole that it's like I find it even hard to even finish.
At some point, you gotta start writing.
I don't give myself. I ask Lauren and Rebecca, my two partners, for them to give me a deadline, and I never miss a deadline because I'm a goal-oriented dude. So if they say do it on this day, it's getting done, no matter what I gotta do. So that's what I do. Like lately, a lot of Brian Mann's research because of velocity-based training. Before that, it was hypertrophy. So what was the dude? Oh my God, who's the big dude? Hypertrophy guy.
Brad Schoenfeld?
Yeah,
that the episode just came out.
Yeah, we just posted an episode with him that did fantastic.
That
episode absolutely crushed. It's episode 289. Go listen to it. It's like one of our best responses to any episode ever.
He's great at like taking like really deep information and translating it for the layman to understand it. So
he's okay.
Yeah, he's all right. He's all right.
It's just the best episode we've had in years, but whatever. Yeah, like he's okay.
But that's I've been spending lots of hours in that, and it's cool. It really every time lately I'll write a book and I'll tell my athletes what I'm writing about, and they're like, oh man, they know that like
it's
something
coming.
new
It's
is
coming.
Yeah, so like if you look at like I used to be his coach, and so like if I were to send him, when I'll one of my programs now, it will totally look completely different of what I did back then because I've evolved, and I refuse to like. I just published a book this year about the MASH system. It took me forever to where I'd actually commit to certain protocols.
Yeah,
right.
But now I've got certain protocols. I have outlines that I'm confident in.
Yeah. Brian Mann at University of Missouri has published a ton in this area. So if you want more detail, you guys can go there. But can you give us more of the practitioner version of you're using velocity instead of like percentages to program, right?
We use both. So like let's say that you want to focus on absolute strength. There's absolute strength, there's accelerated strength, strength, speed, strength, and then there's starting strength. And so, like all of us have certain goals when we program. Say you use percentages. The problem is that day to day, your 1 rep max will vary either 18% up or 18% down. It could go either way. So that's a 36%, curve, man. So you can't. So what you think is 80% might very well be 90%, or it might be 70%. But
I've definitely had days where I'm like, oh, lift 85%. I'm just like, what the fuck?
I get it all the time when I use percentages. They're like, I couldn't do what you programmed, and that. So I understand. It's because for whatever reason, stress in our life, the endocrine systems, it's just not. It's not on par that day.
So a little bit of context here. You get a program from your coach that says, hey, you're going to do 3 sets of 5 today at 75%. You go in that day and say your max is 100 kilos. So 75% should be 75 kilos.
Right.
But that could actually be 118%, or that could be 82%.
Right.
So you could be way stronger.
So you can still use percentages. You can still do whatever you want. You might use bar speed as a guideline to let them know if maybe they should chill out. Should go a little bit harder that day. So I'm
wondering, how do I measure my bar speed?
Well, there's tons of stuff. There's Gym Aware. There's Open Barbell. Open Barbell is this very good way to do it, and it's not very. It's maybe $200 that you'll spend. Yep. Or there's a very cheap way.
And you can just put these on your barbell, and as you're squatting or deadlifting or clean and jerking, whatever you're doing, it's going to measure how fast the bar moves.
It's an app on your phone.
App on your phone.
Yeah, or your iPad, or goes directly to your computer, whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
So there's a way to measure it that's pretty easy, quantify it on your phone. Like, what does the programming look like? If I'm going to do, a couple sets of squats, like what do you write down? How's it look?
Easier. Like the snatch and clean and jerk. I feel like Brian needs to do more research on that. And he would agree.
He's mostly in squat, deadlift,
But
bench.
Like squatting is easy.
He's a powerlifter, though. So
yeah, he's
give him a pass. Yeah,
I know. Guys.
He doesn't really understand things, so he's a powerlifter.
I've been on both sides of that, so but he's right. He's right. So,
I love you, Brian, but
but like you take a squat. Say that your goal is 80%. Well, that's probably in that accelerative strength phase, which is where most powerlifters live in that. which is between like it's normally between like 60 and 80%, and the bar speed needs to be somewhere faster than 0.5 meters per second, slower than 0.75 is where they should be. So like let's say that I program 80%, and you go to squat, and then your bar speed is 0.85. Probably should go up a little bit. That day,
that tells you're moving the bar so fast that it's not actually heavy today.
No.
Heavy enough.
Yeah. So now
Didn't Louis always say 0.8 meters per second for dynamic effort was optimal?
Strength speed. That's what where he was staying. He would live in the strength speed phase. And so like if you thought you were doing accelerative, but all of a sudden now you're in strength speed, well now you're really not getting the trait of strength that you want.
Right.
So like
it's too fast or it's too heavy. Yeah.
But now on the other hand, let's say that you squat and it's you're doing 80% and now you're at 0.4, it's time to back off. Maybe that day would be a good day to work on technique, or like recover, but it's not in the cards that day.
Yeah.
So it's a great way of teaching. I'll tell you what it's really good for. It's brand new coaches. So like I can see that. We've all been coaches and into it long enough to know today's not the day. The bar's moving slow. The dude's at 80% and it looks like a max out. Let's cut it off. But new coaches, they don't know. And I'll tell you another good thing is like teaching athletes how to understand what does fast mean, or teaching athletes.
Oh, yeah.
Teaching athletes, let's say that you say, I want it to be more explosive. What does that mean? Like if you've never squatted, what does that even mean? But like if you say, I want it to be 0.8 meters per second, and they do a squat and it's at 0.6, but push harder. You wouldn't believe how athletes think they're going fast. I've cued an athlete as in the middle of their squat and said, go faster. And they picked up speed on my verbal cue. So obviously they don't know how fast they're going.
Well, I remember going and watching, maybe this was probably 06 or 07, and going and watching the American Open. It was my first like major competition. I went with both you guys.
Yeah, we were all there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we Birmingham, Alabama. We came in with a handle of Crown.
Probably not Crown. Probably more like Sailor Jerry.
And
something worse.
Well, I think my mom gave it to us. So it's probably Crown.
That's probably what it was.
That's how my mom used to get us to come hang out.
Yeah,
bottles
that's
of
a true
whiskey.
story.
Yeah, and
the carrot. Yeah.
And then take inappropriate photos of us and.
We will not let that surface. I remember going, and I remember my coach or our coach, Brian Schilling, telling me, hey, go faster, like lightning fast. I'm like, I am. And then I remember going and into the warm-up area and watching Kendrick Ferris jerk.
Yeah.
And I go, oh.
That's fast.
Got it.
Yeah.
And I remember going back in the gym the next week and being faster. Just because I now know what the fuck that means.
Exactly.
I literally told all my students yesterday, I said, all of you are going to PR next week.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? You're here right now, you're all going to PR next week.
Yeah.
It's about teaching intent. That's what, in my book, that's what I explained. It's how to teach, new lifters intent. When I say fast, I mean fast.
Yeah. There's actually some pretty interesting research that shows if you're trying to develop speed or power, the intent to move the bar is actually more important than the actual bar speed.
Yes.
So even if you don't move it any faster, the intent to go faster will lead to further increases in speed.
Dr. Hatfield's been talking about that for years.
Yeah, right.
Compensatory acceleration, or at least trying.
Right.
He talked about that forever. It's the intent of trying to push it. It's in an accelerative strength, which is where that's where Prillipin would have told you is where you need to live. It's about taking a heavy weight and going as fast as you can. And as long as you're pushing as fast as you can, you'll get the desired outcome.
Yeah. So let's take maybe a squat. That may be an easy one. What's the normal velocity of the barbell supposed to look if I'm trying to get faster, and then if I'm trying to get stronger, and then maybe power, whatever? Give me some
faster would be that, what Louis said, is, strength, speed, and speed, strength.
So if you're trying to get faster and the barbell is going less than 0.8 meters per second, it's probably too heavy.
You need to go, and there's a lot of research out there that says if you're training sprinters, if you're wanting to keep them fast, you should live in that, either strength, speed, strength, because a lot of times when you're in that accelerative and absolute strength phase, what happens is that your antagonists and agonists are working together, and you don't want that. You want the antagonist to cut off as much as possible when you're sprinting, because if they're going at the same time, you'll move slow. They're not releasing.
Right.
So when you're in that, the strength, speed, and speed, strength, they're not being recruited. Only your agonists are being recruited.
Right. That's a key aspect of athleticism. I think is very underlooked.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to even think about how to train it specifically, where we typically think about like we want to have very strong muscle contractions, we want to be fast, we want to be powerful, but oftentimes, especially in more agile sports where strength isn't as much of a factor, if you're playing soccer or basketball or something like that, the athletes that can relax the quick, go from a strong muscle contraction to a very relaxed muscle to change directions or whatever, like those people are very fast and whippy and they look athletic.
Yes.
But I don't know how to train that though. How would you train something like that?
But if like what happens versus on velocity. Like I know that at 0.75 meters per second and lower, I know that now both your antagonists and agonists will be recruited, and so I probably don't want to live, even though those are important, but that I should probably spend less time there and more time at the speed, strength. There's a guy I'm training for Taekwondo. The dude should have been in the Olympics last time. He's in the Olympic trials, the final fight, and is winning. So he's going to the Olympics and throws a kick and breaks his tibia.
Oh,
I know. And he's the nicest kid. Oof. Bernard, shout out to Bernard. But so like we can't put a lot of weight on it because he's a lower weight class.
Oh, yeah.
So we're staying in that, it's just speed, strength, and velocity can help me. Like I don't want to make him slow. For heaven's sakes, Taekwondo is nothing but speed.
Yeah.
So
you'll hear people argue all the time about strength versus speed, right? So people say, well, getting stronger doesn't make you actually any faster. And then some people even say, hey, if you, for example, the argument always against powerlifting was that actually you learn to be slower. So if you're a runner or a sprinter, it makes you slower.
That's not true.
Do you think moving in these wrong strength, strength areas and practicing too much at a low barbell velocity is explaining some of that, or that's related, or is it all garbage?
Here's the thing. For the first 2 years, as long as you get your absolute strength better, all that stuff will get better.
Yeah.
After 2 years, it's very important that you look at the sport and then you become specific. The SAID principle. You need to then, if you're a fast sport, focus on that. But like at the first 2 years, man, just get them strong. Don't really worry about velocity. Mm-hmm. But there is a point of velocity too that I don't know if Coach Mann talked about. But let's say that you're a high school coach and you're in this, you're in a big gym. You got 30 people. There's one of you. It's a great way to keep people safe. Like, let's say that I want them to do a clean, max triple, but I'm worried about, we all know that there's two big injuries, that could potentially happen if you're teaching weightlifting, and that's, the elbow to the knee, break the wrist, or the back. So I just say, look, 3 rep max as long as you're at 1.3 meters per second and faster. The minute you get to 1.3, cut it off. Guess what? Now you got a bunch of coaches, and they're machines. You're using velocity to be a coach. And so the athletes are, 1.3, I'm done. Here's my max. And you can measure that, too. I can know that they're getting strong. 6 weeks later, I can do another 3 rep max, say 1.3, and I have that data to go against.
Yeah.
So,
and they're not coming up to you saying, like, oh, no, I can do 10 more pounds.
No.
Because you can look at the data, you can look at the numbers and say, no, this says that you're done.
Yeah,
and now it's not you against them. It's like you're both like we're just going off what the computer says.
Hell no, you can't. Look.
Yeah,
yeah, you're right. There's no debate.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just being mean. Like, it's so funny. Athletes are so funny. Do they not think that I want them to be as strong as they want to be?
Right.
Like, I want them to be. I'm trying to get you to the Olympics, bro. I want you to be stronger than everybody in the world, but you're not capable that day. And this is a way of me showing you why. Like, your bar speed is too slow. It's not going to happen.
So a clean and jerk like 1.3, 1.4, and then snatch is like 1.5, 1.6?
No, yeah, 1 point, which is cool because, that is one way to do starting, starting strength is like anything above 1.3, they say. Yeah. And so, like, it's a good way to do, which, of course, Coach Mann and I talked about that, and he's unsure of that. But, it's a great way to train as fast as possible. The snatch, I tell you what, too, snatches, if you want, like, pure power and major velocity, do snatches from blocks from the mid thigh. That's where you get the most.
Yeah.
So you can use this for speed and strength training. What about the rest of the workout? Like any assistance work, hypertrophy training? Like, is that just back to just normal everyday lifting?
It's a great question. It's, as far as I've gotten, is mainly using it for either the Olympic lifts or the main power, the squat, bench, and deadlift. You could. The main reason I'm doing it is because you really use accessory movements for hypertrophy. That's what I do. So, like, if velocity doesn't become as big of an issue. It becomes, I'm trying to get X amount of time under tension. I'm looking for some metabolic stress, you know. So it's a little bit different. When I do the snatches, clean and jerks, squats, I have there's a specific intent I'm after. So it's more important to use velocity for those.
Yeah. What if you're like, okay, you know what, I want to start doing some velocity stuff. I'm going to get gym aware or something else. I'm overwhelmed, though. I don't really know what's going on with this stuff. Of course, buying your book would help.
Yes, because it's very simple.
If they wanted to use, like, all right, I just want to collect data on one exercise a day. Every time I train, what exercise should they pick? What speed should they be at? How would I get started?
You could pick any of the. You could pick all.
Try kickbacks?
I mean,
no.
You can.
Okay.
So, and I'll tell you another thing that's super important is I would, if you can, if you want to do velocity-based training, I would take individuals because here's the thing: is everything I've told you today is like a mean, you know, like an average. So try to get more data on individual athletes. Yeah. There's a dude from Florida State. You know, they have the most amazing track team out there.
Yeah.
And they do some crazy stuff with velocity. They can pinpoint. You can do like a 70% back squat, and based on how fast you go, because they have so much data, they know that you're probably set for like a good chance you're going to do a 100-meter PR. And so it's crazy that you can now it is the gym is specific to the track or the field if you're full.
They also have 3 full-time sports statisticians.
Oh yeah.
That just collect data.
Yes.
That's not even their strength coaches. It's impressive setup.
If you guys ever get Coach Ken, which is the Carolina Panthers strength coach,
Joe. Yeah.
They have one dude that all he does is data.
Yep.
It's just for a 40-person football team. One dude, his whole job. And they have they use GPS tracking, and so it's insane.
Yeah.
So that's where sports are going. It's numbers, quantify. As much. We were talking earlier. Like this is a good point. Is like. In your program, if you can't answer the why you're doing it, you probably shouldn't be doing it, man. There should be a reason. If you ask me anything I'm doing, I invite you to because I like talking about it. I'll tell you exactly why. And if I can't, I'm probably going to be like, my bad, and I'm going to take that out of there.
Yeah.
So.
Can you talk a little bit more about the assistant stuff? Because that's one mistake I know that I made when we were weightlifting is I would snatch, clean and jerk, front squat, and then I'm like, everything else is stupid. And just for years, I didn't do anything else.
It sounds Bulgarian right there, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? Unfortunately, I wasn't nearly as strong or as did anything like that. But, which one should they focus on? Is that how much? What?
Well, I talked to Piros Dimas, 3-time
gold
medalist. He's pretty good. 3-time Olympic gold medalist. And he started in the Russian system where they used variety. And then he switched to, as he got older, and he was in Albania, and then he went to Greece. It was all Bulgarian. And so when he agreed to do it, and he said, but because he'd done all the Russian stuff, he was prepared for it. He said he watched a lot of people get hurt. He doesn't like the Bulgarian system at all. This is coming straight from the gold medalist. So any of you out there now that are like, oh, Bulgarian system, number one, you're probably not really doing the Bulgarian system. Unless you're maxing out 3 times a day, every single day, you're not doing it.
We had Max on. Max Ada
said 8 times.
I mean, well, he said, Peter said 3.
Yeah, whatever. It's a lot.
It's a lot. And so,
every day.
You're probably not doing it. And so I love it when an American lifts once a day, and they don't even do snatch. They'll do a clean and jerk and a squat and call it Bulgarian system. No, you're not. Not even close. You're just having fun and showing off on Instagram. You're not even but doing the accessory movements, it's not always about being applicable to the snatch and clean and jerk. It's what allows you to snatch and clean and jerk for longer without getting hurt. So if you have a weak link, like girls, a lot of times girls are really strong, hips down, and so they can heave weight above their head that they have no business getting there, and so then you'll get a snapped elbow or hurt shoulder. So when I do upper body work with my females, it's not necessarily because I'm trying to make them snatch and clean and jerk more. I'm trying to make them be able to snatch and clean and jerk without getting hurt. Because if I can train someone for 5 years without injury, that's just as good as this other person, but the other person gets hurt, we still won.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more to it. Everyone's like deadlifts, for example, which that's such debatable. They'll be like, we don't deadlift because it's not applicable to snatch, clean, jerk. Lies. But anyway, it's not always about it being directly correlated to that movement.
What are some of the
It's
systems?
interesting. Sorry, it's interesting that they say that about deadlifts because they don't make the same argument for a million other movements that are totally, completely different than snatches and clean and jerks. Yeah.
I mean, they don't think that the pull is the correct velocity, but like it's, you know what you said earlier. It's not necessarily about how fast it's going. It's about your intent of which you're moving it. So like, there's so much research out there that just says that, hey, if I'm pulling as hard as I can, I'm getting the outcome I want, but it just doesn't look it. I'll tell you what, here's when I knew that they were all wrong. I saw Travis Cooper when I was with Muscle Driver USA. He had hurt his back, so squats really were affecting his back. However, he had qualified for the World Championships, so he had to find a way to train for the World Championships. All he did was snatch, clean and jerk, and deadlift. He did a ton of accessory movements, programmed by Zach Greenwald. I think you guys have had him on. So, and that dude set a PR without squatting at all. So, don't tell me that deadlifts don't work. I saw it. I coached him, and I saw it happen. So, anyway.
What are some of the accessory movements that you like? Because you were saying earlier you do front raise, like delt raise, lateral raise. Like what other assistance?
I tell you, gosh, I'm doing exactly what I told you not to do earlier. But I do love the Chinese. Let me tell you why. Is they just look cool,
absolutely.
Anyone, I mean, you gotta love Lou.
Yeah,
they're all
come on
jacked.
now.
He's jacked. You know what? Luke could make millions doing a Bruce Lee movies.
Oh my God.
I hope that wasn't a racist comment. I'm just being real. That dude is so jacked. I would watch all of his movies.
Yeah.
Teach him a few kicks. but
that doesn't sound racist at all.
I mean,
that sounds like I want to watch his movies.
That's okay. That's
He's so impressive physically.
But when you watch the Chinese,
I don't think 4 white guys should decide what's racist and what's not.
Fair
yeah,
enough.
we don't have the right. So, but last year when I was at the
Did you just presume I'm white?
Making assumptions.
You're privileged.
Yeah. We're at the Junior Worlds last year, and the Chinese team come in, and I was all excited,
Yeah.
And they were doing so much. They would do their snatching, clean jerking. They did so much bodybuilding. They were doing, back raises, like lateral raises, front raises. They were doing dips.
Weighted dips.
Probably wouldn't do dips, but, too much muscle damage occurring there. But in my opinion, it works.
Clearly.
That's one thing I remember Louis Sims saying that they tried everything over the years, like trying to get better, and that they got hurt a million different ways, and after a while he realized that they do 1 or 2 heavy lifts, either their max effort thing or their dynamic effort method movement for the day, and then after that's all spatial exercise, which is essentially bodybuilding.
Yeah. So do we. I obviously he's the first person I heard that, and so when I saw the Chinese doing it, I'm like, oh man, Louis Simmons has been saying this for. I've written about it a million times.
Chinese have ripped him off. Those motherfuckers.
Everyone rips them off.
What about things like leg extensions, leg curls, calf raises? Do you do any of that stuff?
Leg curls, I tell you what, we found because we're weightlifting is so quad dominant, you're gonna get a weakness at the knee. A lot of weightlifters have knee pain, and if you'll do some leg curls, a lot of that knee pain will go away. Just means there's a anterior posterior imbalance going on there. The quads are way stronger than the hamstrings at the knee joints, but not necessarily at the hip, but at the knee joint.
Exactly. That's the point.
Yeah.
That was RDLs can't take care of that.
That was one of the things I had issues with is when I started weightlifting, I had knee issues from so much running, and I'm weightlifting. I remember Brian put me on glute ham raises.
Yeah.
He's like, you need to fix your hamstrings. More glute ham raises, and sure enough, it was weeks. And I was like, oh, wow, this feels way better now.
Glute ham raises are one of my favorite for a lot of reasons.
Just make sure that if you're doing it for that purpose, we kind of blew past that whole knee joint versus hip joint thing. Make sure that
I saw you get excited.
The hips are extended when you do your hamstring curl, or else it's going to be still a hip dominant thing. So if they're both flexed, you're both bent at both places, it's still going to be working across the hip joint, and i.e. RDL, things like that. So giving some attention to doing it across the knee joint is very, very, very different. If you're like, oh, I do hamstrings all the time and I still have this problem, make sure that your hips are extended and forcing to work across the knee joint.
Yeah, there's a good technique on that I made years ago, if you want to Google it.
Yeah.
I would.
Nice plug.
I would recommend.
All right. Technique quad, bringing it back.
I would recommend like a seated band leg curl. The closer you get to competition, there's way less muscle damage.
Yeah, you're not going to get so sore.
It deloads as you increase. There's not that eccentric loading as you're doing your negative.
Right.
So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Shut it down. Where do people go get your book?
Oh, go to mashelite.com to get everything.
Everything.
Mashelite.com.
That's it.
That's your Instagram too, right? And all that stuff?
Mash Elite Performance on Instagram.
Yeah.
What's the velocity book called?
Bar Speed.
Bar speed.
Yeah, so probably, yeah.
Keeping it simple.
Yeah, bar speed. You know, so it's done really well. Thank God. I was a little worried when I wrote it because it's a kind of a foreign concept to a lot of people. But I put out a bunch of articles trying to like give people like a little bit of insight on it. So you get that at matchlead.com. It's all free. You'll start to understand it more, and then the book will make more sense.
Yeah.
Right on.
Do you have any programming stuff on the Mash Elite?
Oh, okay. Yeah, all tons of free workouts.
Yeah.
So we get I gotta say this: the coolest moment of my coaching career. We were at dinner the other night with there was a bunch of people from England.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, they weren't talking, and then I finally started talking to them, and they started talking like crazy. They're like, look, we gotta tell you, a lot of us in England do your programming, and I tell you what, I was like, I've never been so like, what's the word, like humbled in all my life. These people across, I'm 44 years old. I never would have guessed when I was in college that somebody in England would be doing my programs, and they're really good, and just
that was the people here for World Championships.
For the world, yeah, the people at the World
Not
Championships.
just like some English dudes.
Yeah, and I called my wife, and I was almost in tears. I'm like, I can't believe it. These people from England, world level athletes, are doing my programming. So yes, on Match League, there's a lot of free, and not free workouts. But
there you go.
He's got kids to feed, folks.
Yeah.
He's got kids to feed.
Yeah. So yes.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us today. And for you watching us right now, go over to iTunes, subscribe, go over to YouTube, subscribe to everything Barbell Shrugged. And don't forget, please remember, flightweightlifting.com. You want to read about some weightlifting technique, programming, pretty much just anything you might want to know. We'll cover it slightly in that book.
We'll cover it slightly. You'll give all the information you ever wanted, or at least some of it. And also thank you to Rickard and Eric for letting us hang out at the Eleiko booth and give us a place to do our show. Always appreciated. Love those guys.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks
Awesome.
for having
Next
me
time.
on.
Yeah, thanks, Travis.
Yeah,
Thanks for sticking with us all the way to the end of the show. We know you loved it. Go over to Facebook, share it with your friends. They should be seeing this, and you should be the one to show them how awesome this information was for you.
And if you're the last person in America still using Twitter, share it on Twitter.
I use Twitter.
You use Twitter?
I'm a tweeting fool. I fuck with people on Twitter. That's my thing. And it just started a whole firestorm. It was awesome.
You need more work to do.